Please all rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome everybody to the April 24th board meeting. As usual, we start off the meeting with public comment. Did anybody sign up?
Susan Stevenson.
I did.
Just one.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Oh, God.
No, I'm not.
Do you live here?
Susan Stevenson. I live in the village. I came because I went to Munns Point. Someone mentioned to me that they went to Munns Point and they couldn't park because there were construction vehicles taking every parking space. So I called the enforcement, and then I went, and I had the same experience. And I talked to the enforcement officer, ordinance officer, who told me that he wasn't the right person to talk to, that if you park on the side of the road, you get a ticket, which would be the only choice to do once all those spaces are taken all day long. And I don't believe it's the intention of the village to have a public access recreation area closed off because the parking is abused. From May 15th till September 15th, a sticker is required. But it's not May 15th, and it's a whole year long that I go out there. And I just think these are the kinds of situations we're encountering, I know. And I was wondering if either you could put like a 2-hour limit, or I don't know how you could handle it, but I just don't believe that people should be enjoined for the rest of the year from parking there because somebody's doing something and has service vehicles they don't want in their big driveway the rest of the year. That's all I have to say. Yes.
There's a house being worked on.
But there's always going to be a house. Take it from me. There's always going to be a house being worked on out there. So it's not it's not just a one-off.
No, what we'll do is
and the similar situation like that you had where they pick up people, they all park on the street. I think, that could be a good place for that too. So I just would hope that you would make it open to the public, me being one of them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I think what we've done in the past is they've gotten a special permit to park at Cooper's when Cooper's not really open, and then they shuttle them down to wherever they're working. That works when beach is not open, but no, I agree with you. If that's supposed to be open to the public and it's being filled with vehicles of, service trade, it's not there.
Well, isn't it, I don't understand this. You can get a permit to park on the side in a place that would be illegal otherwise, is that right, if you're a construction? If you go to the building department, no?
No, our permits that we issue just exempts them so that, because they don't have that.
They pay $10 for one permit for a month.
Yeah.
And then they can park where?
Along certain
the
sides of
road?
the roads, but not both sides.
But if it says no parking, can they park there if they paid the $10?
Depends where it is.
Okay, well, that would be a way. I just think you need to, I don't know what you can do, 2-hour limit, whatever, for Munns Point, and then you'd have to enforce it. But I'm the public, I'm a bird watcher, so I...
No, you're right, because I went down there.
It's embarrassing to admit.
And it was...
Watch out for wildflowers, I could be back. Thank you.
Anybody else with a comment? Okay, so we move ahead to board presentations. We had one for a dog parker, but I don't believe she's here.
No, we're going to postpone that till May 10th.
Okay, so we then move ahead to Gin Lane Restoration.
I got moved up.
I apologize to whomever I'm putting on top of.
Did I miss anything good?
Pledge.
We just started.
That's usually the best part.
Good evening, Melissa Dedovich, Peconic Environmental Associates. We're back with a couple of revisions per the directive of the board at the last meeting. We're all scheduled to be heard in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals this Thursday night. We have also provided this plan as well as the older plan to Chick Voorhees, and I got some feedback from him last week at the work session. So I just wanted to point out, be this very quick, the revised plan now removes 6 serviceberry. These are the trees that everybody's looking for. We removed 6 of them through the swamp here. So really, we only have the 1. So they're like bookends here, the 3 serviceberry here. We're going to rehabilitate the 3 trees there. Originally, we were going to remove them. And we believe that if we take off the porcelainberry, the capra and everything, they've lasted how long over there? We'd like to give them a chance. So we only have really 1 tree here, 1 tree here, and the 3 at the bottom. We've also added to the plan about the irrigation being from a municipal source from a private adjacent property owner, Charlie Ayers. As you know, he's provided a letter saying he's willing to provide that service. The 2 areas, limited areas of Japanese knotweed are now called out. As is, we've now given the maintenance and the eradication plan here, the Japanese knotweed Phragmites management plan, and a time frame. And we also added a note that I believe we said at the board meeting too, is that there's a note that actually says we will replace any of the shrubs and plantings if they fail.
And that's, what did you just say, Ms. Scott? I wasn't opening this, it's making too much noise.
It's okay. At the bottom, there's a note that says, should any of these shrubs or plantings fail during this whole, over the years and everything, we are willing to replace them in place in kind.
Melissa, could you, I'm only going based on some of the discussions that held by the zoning board at the work session, questions asked, and I know we didn't have something in writing on the management plan before. Could you explain the process of the management plan? Particularly, I'm concerned only because Chick Voorhees had raised the question. I'm not understanding.
Right, and unfortunately, we weren't able to touch base with Chick. He's in New Orleans at a conference right now. But our office, as well as Ed Hollander's office, did some additional research, and I'm going to have to cheat and look at this. Okay, so in the original work, we're going to cut all of the Phragmites. We're actually going to cut and excavate where the Japanese knotweed are. Originally, Mr. Voorhees thought that the knotweed was all throughout, but upon further inspection, we actually went out there, members of Ed Hollander's office and myself, and you can see where they're, because they're actually coming up. They're this high now. And they're in 2 specific locations that are marked out over here. One of the things that Ed and I discussed is the fact that if we're doing the shrub installation anyways, we're going to have to dig to get the root balls in there. Why don't we excavate those 2 limited areas? So we're going to try to remove as much of the Japanese knotweed root mass as we can, remove it at an upland disposal facility, usually incinerate it. Then what we do is we're going to plant. Then later in the summer, late summer 2018, hand wick procedure, glyphosate to any new Japanese knotweed growth. And what that actually does in the literature, it says it actually stunts the next year because it'll absorb it into the roots and it'll kill it off for next year. Then in the summer, we're going to continue the Japanese knotweed management. It would be same thing twice a year in the mid-June and mid-August, and you'd be going in by hand. Again, the fact that we've removed most of the roots. Japanese knotweed is 10 times worse than Phragmites. Phragmites, if you cut the leaves, the photosynthesis, you deny it photosynthesis, the root will decay. Japanese knotweed, I mean, if you miss a little bit of root, it's going to start taking off. So it's going to take a couple of years. We have right now for the first 3 years, of course, we talked about maybe extending that. And then the continuation of the Phragmites management would be cut once in the summer, late June, early August. That would be prior to seed. And I know he gets into the application of herbicide is translocated down to the root system, blah, blah, but that's pretty much the summary of what we'll be doing.
The
two Japanese knotweed areas where you would
They're the pink.
excavate?
They're in the,
Okay, the pink side, okay.
What's the
Some of the older photographs that we have,
No, Japanese knotweed are, I call it the Jurassic Park plant. If you go, and actually it's really, if you go down Brick Hill Road especially, it stalks like bamboo, but then the leaves are about this big. I always keep on expecting Velociraptor to come down, and it's really, Sag Harbor, especially in North Haven, I have a big problem with that, and with the mile-a-minute weed. These are invasives,
Never
they're
know
really,
what it was called, okay.
Okay, yeah.
That's it, okay. And that's an accurate description, Jurassic
the
Park.
Jurassic Park plant, yep.
I think we had photographs back to 2013 showing the knotweed completely along the road, not just in two sections. I mean, I'm wondering how that disappeared.
I didn't see that photo.
I don't know if we had it.
yeah, there was an old photo.
Well, it wasn't the really, really old one.
That we got.
Because we went, actually, we literally went out there. I don't think it's all Japanese knotweed. This right here, I can tell you, is this section here. This is about 120 feet long. This is long.
Yeah, but it looks like
So
it's
that's
the whole
actually
length.
that whole section there. And that, see, if you look
It
at,
looks like the turn except for...
Is that what that's from?
right, it comes right, and this is the turn, and it goes all the way down, then it starts again here. It's very easy, if you walk it with this map, you'll be able to see where it's coming out. And now that that we had so much damage from the storms and everything, it's getting so much sunlight that it's taking off. Thank you.
So from what you're saying, you're kind of indicating that you're going to remove it. You're going to remove the Phragmite. You want to do the planting. You will watch over it, and you will continue to eradicate for the next 3 years. Should we? What if? Well, you're eradicating. What if some of your plants die? Like,
That's a note that if at during that time, any of them fail or inadvertently get wicked or something, we will replace them. And the reason why we want to plant, and Ed Hollander did some research on it, as well as I did with the DEC, is that you want to have the native plants out competing the Phragmites and the Japanese knotweed that's trying to reestablish. So you want this to start not keeping them shaded and be ahead of them and be taking the nutrients and getting the sun. And eventually, what we're hoping for, again, this is, we've had very good luck in the past doing this work. Everything's always trial and error. Is we're trying to get the native plants reestablished that they will just take over. The other thing that the board had asked for were renderings. You should each have one of these?
we do
Yes.
have
Okay, perfect. So if you look at the map, starting from the south, and I remember, it's so funny, this aerial is taken from about 2 years ago. You can actually see the two trees, which are now covered with the invasive vines. We would like to rehabilitate those two trees, and that's also where the pussy willows and everything will be. That's right here.
Melissa, we could put one down for Charlie,
Oh,
and then you can use yours for a diagram.
I'm sorry, Charlie.
okay.
So these are the two trees to be rehabilitated, the Phragmites to be removed, and this is the native plantings. The second page, I'll try to put it over here. That's that tree right here, the existing tree. So we'd like to, we're going to rehabilitate that too. And it has some vines actually in it's in okay condition. So we're going to give it another chance. It does leaf, I believe last time I don't remember seeing any dead per se, I hate to say it that way, along the shoreline. So we're just hoping that if it gets a little TLC, that these trees will be able to come back. And this is with the native restoration. And I love the guy driving here in the middle of the road. And this is another shot. This is the same tree that we saw in the previous picture with a little bit of this tree over here. And that gives you another idea of the planting. And then this one is taken further up in, I believe, this area. This is that tree, yes. And where there's no trees, oh, actually, no, it's right here. And there's going to be a tree planted there, as well as the shrubs.
So,
Melissa, one of the concerns of a lot of people, the public, was height. What are we doing there?
Well, the height,
Maybe you could talk about that a bit.
the renderings that we gave show both the planted height as well as the potential height. If you remember when Ed Hollander was here last time, the reason we chose, we feel we appropriately sized the plant material is we don't feel it's going to get all that much bigger than what's installed for the fact that it's going to have very harsh environmental conditions. You have the wind, right here, you've got the bath, you've got the beach club here, Komodo's over here. This thing gets crucified with the salt spray, and it's a freshwater wetlands restoration. In fact, Ed Warner Jr. told me they've had to plant twice because they didn't put big enough plantings in there. It gets really beat up. So we're not expecting what we provided to you in the renderings is pretty much how we expect it to go 3 or 4 years from now.
I think one of the things that I'm struggling with a little bit, and I think when I look at your plant choice and I look at what it would look like, to me, it's like a beautiful garden in a yard, in someone's yard. That's what I see. But what I also don't see is the lake. And I think that a lot of people, that has been the concern. They wanted the open lake vista. And at road level, I'm not seeing the lake at all.
I think it's very hard to show in a rendering what's actually going to be installed there. So
there are no breaks in this at all.
No, you will see. You have to remember, this is in the middle of, it actually, you do see the lake through this. If you go through it, you can see the lake. And if you look at the perspective, like this, for example, this is on the other side of the road. If you're walking over on that side of the, we had to go on the other side of the street. If you're walking on that side of the street, you're going to see the lake. We just had to take it from across the street. So it's really, I believe, a perspective. If you look at the sizes that are actually on here, what's going to be planted, but we had to take the photographs from across the street.
Yeah, because Melissa, that's constantly the concern that people have been reaching out to us, is seeing the lake.
I think you're going to have, you're going to be able to see the lake in some sections. I don't think you're going to have an open vista. We haven't had an open vista of the lake in over 30 years with the Phragmites and Japanese knotweed that have been taking over there. I think what this does is it provides, first of all, Lake Agawam in the last 30 years, the lake quality has really diminished, as we all know. And part of the reason, I'm sure this has not been helping the situation in Lake Agawam. So by installing a significant buffer here, you're improving the lake quality, and I would hope that people in the village would be willing to give away a little bit of view in exchange for having a healthier lake.
Oh, no, the project concept and the buffer zone is fantastic. There is, I don't have a problem at all with that. But I do constantly hear we won't be able to see the lake. That's
I really think I think this is a test pilot. We don't know how well the plants are going to do down there. We're hoping and we're willing to put our money where our mouth is that they're going to survive down there. But we really won't know till we try. If we go smaller, we have less of a chance of success. And I've talked to the town trustees about this. I've talked to a couple other landscape architects. It's just the nature of the area down there.
I'm going to say basically what the mayor and Trustee McGann have said. It's about being able to see the water, and you point out for some years. Let me see that picture. Not sure.
Oh, the Jurassic.
One on the bottom. The Jurassic Park. You're right. At one point, it did look like this, but we also went in and cleared it. So for a long time, you're referring to historically, it did look like that, and historically, perhaps there were points where the public, general public, did not have a view of the lake. But since we cleared it out, meaning the DPW, what they ended up with was this, in your own existing picture. And unfortunately, that is what people have grown accustomed to. They, short-term memories, that's pretty
what's
human
hard
nature. They
about-
forget that. This is not what they're comparing it to, and as far as they're concerned, it's always been looking like that.
Actually,
and your
the
rendering does...
The worst thing that could have been done over the years is cutting the Japanese knotweed. That's unfortunately, it's so hard to get rid of, and all it's doing is extending it. And really...
I'm not going to opine on that. I don't know if that's good enough, but we're talking about perception. People,
But that's what
people can see now, and this...
But actually, that's what
clearly
people
does block
can,
it.
and I disagree with you a little bit on that, because that's what people can see now in spring of 2018. You give it another month or two, the Phragmites is going to start growing again.
Yeah, still pretty thin. It's thinner than this.
No, the Phragmites is going to, I mean, I remember,
I'm not saying
I
one's
walked
better
down
than the
there.
other, but at least some point during the course of the year, this view have, and with your full rendering, this will always be like this. And again, as I said last time, the idea of the runoff and the restoration and the ecosystem part of it, we're all on board with, as the mayor said. Can people still see it? Whether that's valid or not.
Right.
And more importantly, too, because again, this is not my forte. Which is, even last time I went and checked, somebody that we pay for us to counsel.
Right.
And again, he's not here tonight, unfortunately. I was hoping he was, but I don't know if Gary has any comments that he can do on behalf
I
of
do have
Chair.
some comments from him about the rendering.
Okay.
Well, I just wanted...
But that's one thing, too. It's
I'd
I
like
wanna
to
know
make
what
one
Chair
comment. This
knows
is a
and says.
historic area, this is an aerial taken within the last 2 years that we use as a base map here. That's all Phragmites that's grown up. This was taken in the middle of the summer. So, it may be an up version of it, but that's 30 feet thick. So really, and your view was through the stalks. Here, I think, and this is the other thing, this is the rendering in a perfect world, in summer, and everything's green and everything, and then we have fall, winter. You're going to get your views. You're going to have it. It's going to be full. You have foliage, and the foliage is going to drop. And that's actually what makes this beautiful. I know you say it looks like a garden, it's just the way it is. But what's nice about doing a native wetlands restoration is that if you do it right, things bloom at different times, things fruit at different times, you have different birds at different times, and you actually make it much more interesting shoreline than the opposed of really what's there right now, which is frag and Japanese knotweed.
I mean, my next question was, what's it going to look like in January?
It's going to be those plantings, but, when you see bayberry and thing, it's going to be like when you see a dunescape, or if you go to Big Fresh Pond, if you go to any of the freshwater bodies. I mean, unfortunately, most of the bodies of water in Southampton Village, even Old Town Pond, have a thick stand of Phragmites and Japanese knotweed. And once in a while, you will get lucky and have clients that we have that will do a native restoration. If you want to go see one, we can take you to one, but they're really beautiful.
That might be interesting.
But really, we're just trying to get over to ZBA now to get Chick's comments, incorporate them, because again, this is a public-private partnership.
Which again is a beautiful. Is this? I'm sorry, Nancy. Is this sanction or part of the Lake Agawam? What's the
Restoration.
Comprehensive plan, yes. Well, that's in the last
But
meeting.
also the group that we, 10 years ago or so, we were.
It was a conservation group.
Yes.
Yes. Is this part of that and sanction or
They
approved
actually,
by that?
I don't know if they still have these, but I do know we have, because I always hand it out, actually, I make copies of it. They have the little pamphlet that the village gives you, Lake Agawam, an owner's guide.
Yeah.
And in that, they try to get people to do exactly what we're doing, except they try to get them to do a 50-foot wide buffer. And here we're leaving the green so we have an area that people can walk and bike. And I really think when you're walking on that side of the street, you're going to be able to see a lake. It's all perspective.
It's just that I can remember when I was a child, we drive past there. It's breathtaking. It was wide open. And it's kind of like when you're going down Meadow Lane and you get down further and you're at the bay side, you have an open vista of the bay. There's nothing like it. And I think part of the problem here is that that's what people have indicated that they'd still like to see. And that's the issue.
What's hard too is that back then, I mean, if you look at, we do a lot of work with historic sites, and we do a lot of, actually, I wish Susan was still here, photographs. And if you look at Lake Agawam and everything in the surrounding area, there were hardly any trees. It was all grassland. Shinnecock Hill was all grassland. So, and one of the things we've learned now over the years is that this whole area is about buffers and restoration as opposed to mowing down to the water. You used to let your cattle graze down to the water and everything. So we're learning as we go about how to save our lake and improve the environmental conditions because we have houses. It's changed. Can't stop it, unfortunately, the change, but we can try to do something to help.
Yes. Maybe Gary.
Hi.
Yeah, Chick, Gary Gillespie, DPW. Chick reviewed the plan. He shot me an email this afternoon. It says, it is recommended that the village board consider the aesthetic, environmental, and maintenance aspects of the proposed plan and move forward only if it's satisfied that the plan is in the best interest of the village. The visual renderings appear to confirm that views of the lake will be blocked by vegetation in the planting area. The village board can review the renderings and determine if the aesthetics of the plan are consistent with the interests of the village. If the village board determines that views of the lake are an important aesthetic consideration, amendment of the plan appears to be needed to ensure that there are openings along Gin Lane so that motorists and pedestrians will have a view of the lake. He goes on to say the proper management of invasive plants with expressed concern that one season of cutting followed by immediate planting would not provide an effective means for controlling invasives due to intermingling of invasive plants and newly planted native species. The logistics of continued cutting and wicking of invasive plants in and around native plants is not practical.
And again, we haven't had a chance to talk to Chick about this. When we met at the work session, I called him 3 times to discuss this. I don't think he realizes about the excavation now, the knotweed. And also, we have successfully done this work, and as we talked about before, this could be a pilot. But we've had landscape architects. When you do what I do for a living, you're going to find different ways of doing everything. And sometimes, again, like I said before, it's trial and error. This is a trial and error that's not at any cost to the taxpayers.
No, Melissa, I think your project, we're on the right road.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it needs a little tweaking because the overwhelming response constantly is view of the lake. And they aren't looking for a full view of the lake, but they're looking for a, variation in landscaping so that they can look out and see.
I think there is undulation. I think until we install it, you're not going to really see it. You're getting snapshots.
Yeah.
And I'm really concerned that if the board does skip it, that the neighbors will just not do it. Because they have done their research, and it's a significant cost to do a good thing, give a gift, and they don't want to impede what they've been directed by their experts is the best way for success. So I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place right now because I agree with them. And after discussing with Ed Warner Jr. and what their experience was on that side of the lake and how many times now they've had to replant twice. You go too small, they die.
You mentioned trial and error. If we go along with this as prescribed by you, and it
Ed
does,
Hollander.
You're here, Ed. And if it does grow into a wall, what do we do then? Are we then able to go in? And
That's at your discretion. This is what we're proposing. This is our maintenance. We're also hopeful, again, about the outcome. The literature I have read, and I don't know if Chick has had a chance, I know he said he was going to do some research, is a fact about getting the natives in to try to reestablish. We do understand it's labor intensive. That's why the maintenance plan that we offered the board that we'll be updating actually to address now the Japanese knotweed excavation is labor intensive. We've done this. I mean, I don't want to, out of steps, mention certain clients and everything because they've done their work. They don't necessarily have to be put on in the paper. But there are different ones in Cooper's Pond, on I could give you,
I'm not down with the validity of that. I'm
There are
saying, no,
examples
the people
of
doing the work, trust me, I
larger
don't question.
shorelines restorations on private property in the village that have been successful. And it was done with a removal and planting same season.
Was it? This photograph is what it's proposed to look like, right?
Correct.
And what is this? And
That's the pussy willows. And they're starting at the
I don't mean
willows.
tree. No, I'm not pointing at the trees.
No,
I'm
the
not
willows.
worried about the trees.
The white stuff?
The white stuff of the willows. Those are smaller, those are pussy willows. They're about that high.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying. That's another thing.
About how
See,
high is about
if you
how
look,
high?
well, that's about here.
Yeah, over there. What about,
Sorry, Charlie, I got to turn this around.
is that about 4 or 5 footer? Top to bottom?
Willows are 3 to 4 feet, and they're
They're
expected, the maximum height is 6 to 12 feet.
And that's, if you look at that's, well, but that,
Okay.
Nancy, that's in best case scenario in a nice little pond, like fresh pond. This is a very harsh condition. That's why we expect it to pretty much stay at the height it's installed. So 3 to 4 feet about the height.
I find that hard to believe, that there'll be 3 to 4 feet or something like that here, just because of the conditions, and elsewhere they grow 10 to 12 feet? Because that's the one thing we
I've
don't
never
want.
seen pussy willows get 10 to 12 feet. That's just out of the literature. It's site specific. I mean, I know we've done plantings, I know if you,
6, 7 feet is no good.
but when I get things, I love to plant, I go to Halsey Farm, get my plants. They very rarely grow the height that they're supposed to grow. I live in North Haven, I mean, with this wind and everything, they very rarely grow. But it's the root mass that's actually providing the filtration to the lake.
Summerhill's a good outfit. I anticipate them doing it properly and them growing nicely.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, definitely, but he,
Which
you know,
leads to what Trustee Patrick's concerned of, they may go a little higher than even you anticipate.
Just say, prior to going to the ZBA, could we possibly get a sit-down meeting between Melissa Chicks and representatives of the board, where we could all sit down and be comfortable with this plan?
Chick will be available.
He's our guy, he's the one who stands up for the village, so I think it's really important that we have a conversation with him.
When would he be
Unfortunately, this
available?
week didn't work out. but-
can I actually offer that we can at least proceed to the ZBA and get Chick's actual written comments, and then be able to meet subsequent to that? Because I do know some neighbors and everybody who want to attend on Thursday night, and who actually have already changed their schedules to come to the meeting.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a problem with you going to the ZBA. This council, is there,
As long as they don't,
No, I
as long as they
think-
don't, as long as they don't close that out and
Exactly.
listen to Chick, even if it's after the fact.
I think you're going to get the same response from the ZBA as you're getting from us. So, yeah, don't slow up going to the
Okay.
ZBA. And yes, Gary, we'll get a sit-down.
Yeah, we'll definitely have no problem with sit down, but we just want, I know 4 people have already changed their schedules to be there, so.
Because the concept of your project is excellent. It's a great concept. It's a tremendous opportunity for the village to do a private-public
Yeah.
cooperative event, and everybody who's concerned about the lake. It's just the difficulty we have is that there's 3,000 people in the village of Southampton, and there's a lot of different opinions, and there's groups that do want to see the lake is special to them, so.
Well, it's going to look better than that wall of Japanese now.
Melissa, I can't argue with that, you know. So
Okay.
I think we can work it out, and I think, definitely you can. I don't know how the rest of the trustees feel.
No, I agree with you. I mean, they can go as long as it doesn't get closed out and they still, we get, again, I've always said I want to hear Chick's opinion, so
Yeah.
we'll get the.
It's your property.
Yeah, that's what I mean, which is why I want.
I mean, but no, that's what I'm saying, is that at least moving along, we can get any other things worked out and...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I have no problem with that. Just,
Actually, it's the taxpayers' property.
It's the 3,000 people that we're here to represent.
Thank you, Melissa.
Please,
This was
would you,
helpful.
Thank you.
and Melissa, would you thank Scott Lindsay and all those that are involved for the great contributions and efforts? Because we really, I don't think they understand how much we appreciate it. It's just we have a responsibility to.
No, I understand. I think they're a little, I don't want to say frustrated is too strong a word, but, you know, this has been going on now for 3 years, and I think we're now coming to an end, and it just, like I said, I think we have the meat of the agreement. I think we just have to flesh out these things. And
Yes. That's
getting everybody to hold hands and kumbaya, that's,
Devil's in the details.
That's it.
yes, it is.
It's always workable.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearings. We have a maximum gross floor area of a dwelling, so I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing on the maximum gross floor area of a dwelling.
Second? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we've looked at this for quite a few sessions, and I think we're getting close. We recognize that the Hillcrest area, because of its unique characteristics and lot sizes, need to be reviewed and kept separate. And we also realize that moving forward, we need to continue to try to create a landscape and community within reasonable size. So, you know, any comments from the...
Actually, I wanted to add something. Somebody reminded me of something the other day, since we're looking to revise this to move it to the next level. Somebody pointed out, I don't know if anybody else has ever noticed it, a lot of these houses that have been done, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of them have these stairwells that go down into their basement on the side, and they seem to like actually be along the property line, and are they not part of that configuration with the setback, or are they?
I think they're supposed to be.
Because a lot of them seem to be, that have recently been built, you know, whatever that setback
The stairways have
is.
gotten bigger because they need the egress and regress because
So,
they're using them.
yeah, and I see a lot of people, you know, and it doesn't seem to, somebody said that's exempt from the setback configuration, I'm not sure. You know, because they seem to be encroaching on somebody pointed out several properties to me that have these seemingly, the house ends here, there's a hedge or a fence or whatever it may be, and then in between is this, you know, large, and a lot of them made that way. So I don't know, that's something that anybody's looked at or has brought up, or...
It's a good point.
Because I remember seeing a few houses built, and it was something on my mind, and it slipped my own mind, and then somebody reminded me of it, and I go, and since we are... You know, I don't, you know, again, if I don't know if I'm even right.
I think that they are exempt, but the council's going to take a look because it's like...
It seems, that's what somebody seemed to imply to me, that why would they be in between, let's say, for instance, if it's a 15-foot setback, I was pointing out several that a house ends here and the hedge begins, and there's a staircase, and if you end that staircase going down, it's clearly less than 15 feet from the end of that to that property line.
So what you're saying is if the house has to be 15 feet off of the property line, then the steps should be 15 feet off of the property line?
I don't know if it should, but somebody brought that up, because that seems to be a lot of, you know, these Bilko doors, you know, having an access to the basement is nothing new, but again, that seems to be a lot of people using more space in the basement, and having, instead of just internal or Bilko doors, they're, you know, these pretty elaborate stair systems that go down. It's a big question. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know anybody's thoughts on that, but somebody brought that.
I thought the staircase was required at one point as a form of egress if you're finishing your downstairs basement. So, and I know at one point, I don't think you could use your Bilko door as your form of egress. I think that might have changed, though. It hasn't changed?
You can't use a Bilko door as a means of egress because they're closed and not accessible. First of all, what we're talking about doesn't have anything to do with a proposal on the table, gross floor area, but it's a consequence of the gross floor area, because what you're getting is a lot of space in the basements unless you do need the egress stairs. Stairs extending no greater than 4 feet into a required yard are exempt from the yard requirements currently.
Okay, so that answers the question.
So, yeah, so as long as you stay within 4 feet, you can do that.
Yeah, so fire escapes, stairways, and so on into your required yard. So that happens to be a consequence, which I know particular zoning board has frowned upon structures that are seeking variances not to have any kind of, especially in the front yards. But that is a consequence of having full basements and the change in the state law allowing you to have habitable space in a basement, let alone our other changes in the village. I mean, 2001, I think it was, or 11, whenever they changed the state law allowing you to have habitable space in a basement. That's a consequence of that change in the law. Now everybody is converting their spaces in the basement to habitable space. So you need that ingress and egress.
So that's why it's exempt and why it needs to be exempt.
Well, it was always exempt in the code. That's not a change. That goes back to the beginning of zoning. That stairways and fire escapes were always exempt from the setbacks because of fire safety issues. And it's only a small projection. I think that was the concept. But some of these stairways have become pretty elaborate.
Yeah, those are the ones that were pointed out to me.
Yeah, but you said 4 feet, so some of them are like 4 feet wide.
I think the question is the steps end up being 4 feet, but maybe the excavation and everything else that goes along with it becomes more extensive. So that's the issues.
So what's the 4 feet from beginning to end of the excavation or the stairs from the wall? So the stairs and any wall or brick or has to be no more than 4 feet.
Yes. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Barbara McEntee. On this exact question at the ARB meeting last night, what came up were the stairs. And now that we're discussing the stairs, we could discuss the architecture, because in two particular cases that came up last night, one of the gentlemen on the ARB said, and what are the railings made of? So this will be yet another interesting thing that will have to come as a result of this stairway thing. Is it metal? Is it wood? Plastic? How wide is it? What design is it? Does it have a gate? Does it have anything? Just because it happened to come up last night, which is interesting that you're discussing it tonight. So I think that this is all bringing up another issue, that the stairway, even though it's allowed, what goes around it and what's allowed there, and how does it fit in with the rest of the house and everything else? Is it painted? Not. Metal? Not. Gates? Not. Just a point.
Thank you.
Very good question. And the one thing I've found in this village is every single time you think you've accomplished one thing, you get 2 other problems.
Well, no, you're right. That's exactly what these public hearings are about, because things are brought up. It's the system at work.
But I think that the adjustment of the gross floor area overall is a good move. It does put some restrictions on some of the smaller lots, but I think we've sort of addressed the Hillcrest area and have the concept of leaving it outside of the zoning so that we can take a look at it and do the adjustments and changes that we need to do there. So overall, I think the hearing has been very good. Any other comments?
Christine Sullivan-Whitker. I just had a question about generators when you were talking about side yards and the 4 feet from, for stairs. And I just wondered where generators fit into that, how close they're allowed to be the property sides, if that has any, if they're considered air conditioning.
Sort of
air
setbacks.
conditioning.
I could research it for you, but
No, I just was curious because I do know some people that after things are approved and built, that suddenly there's a generator that's...
There are setbacks for generators.
Okay.
Kind of
Just like there's setbacks
like an
for AC
unit.
units.
It's all right, I would imagine.
Any other comments from the trustees?
No. So what are we looking to do then? Because obviously change the mate, so you're looking to close the current one, then open a new public hearing based on?
Yeah. So what the board has in front of them, based on the comments, particularly last meeting, is a revision to the local law. The revision would hold fast the 10%, the reduction from 12% to 10% plus 1,500 square feet throughout all the residence zones and the MF20 zone. However, the applicability of this law as to the R75 zoning district north of the railroad in the Hillcrest neighborhood is specifically would not apply. This local law would not apply to that district as you continue to further study. That you could, after further study, find that this actually is something you want to do in that district or not. But I think what you found on the research that you did, there are many other factors, and that particular neighborhood has a significant number of non-conforming lots that your vision of redevelopment in that neighborhood needs to be explored separately and apart from other parts of the village. So this local law, and as Mr. Yastrzemski said, that this is a revision to the local law, and the recommendation is that you renotice and this provision, adopt the resolution tonight just to continue the hearing and renotice this for your next meeting on May 10th.
I'll make that motion unless we have further comment. Bonnie?
Looks like you got info.
We're going to change it again, Bonnie?
No, not at all. Hi, it's Bonnie Cannon, 54 Miller Road, Southampton, and I just wanted to follow up from the last time that I came up, and Shonda Campbell is here tonight. She is our neighborhood community head person in the Hillcrest area, so she's here with us tonight. I was just asking her about the date, and so she said that they were looking at possibly the 30th of May or the 1st.
The 30th of April or the first Monday in May.
Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that I did follow up, and she's here tonight. Okay.
And that is for what, Bunny?
That's for
Neighborhood meeting?
Yeah, you all
Because I
wanted.
know you said.
Yeah, you all wanted to come, and Paul Travis wanted to come.
Right.
And the
Wanted to
planning
speak to the,
commission, right.
yeah, so I did that, and she's here tonight.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, all right.
So you'll let us know if it's the 1st or the 30th?
Yes. I'll
Okay.
let you know.
Thank you.
Okay. And it'll take place at?
At King's Chapel Church.
And what time were you thinking, Shonda?
Probably around 6:30. We usually have our meetings.
Okay.
Okay,
The first Monday in the month.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, Fred Weinfurt, Roscoe Drive. Just a question. I know what last time we had the meeting, I'm curious as to whether we can carve out, if you will, the 7.5 zoning areas, particularly the Hillcrest community, and close the meeting tonight as far as lots of 12.5 or greater, and render our decision on that and not hold up the process, so we can give adequate time to the 7.5 lots and not rush that, because I think it's a major concern, but not hold up the process on 12.5 or larger. I think it's a benefit to the owners of the smaller lots to do that, give them adequate review and time to do that, but not hold up the process on the larger lots, which I know there's a lot of concern in the village about and the overdevelopment of. So I would ask that we carve out the smaller lots and move forward, close on the larger lots tonight, and render a decision. Thank you.
That is actually what we're doing, Fred. We are carving it out, but the process is, since it's a public hearing process, we have to, so we're doing what you asked, but we can't close out that part. It just can't happen. We have to bring it into the next meeting as part of the public hearing
To give
process.
notice that this is the
We have
intent?
to renotice.
Yes,
To the
so it's
intent.
renotice and going on. So what you just asked, carving it out, that's exactly what our
Okay,
council
but
just said we
notice
would
has
do.
to be given.
Correct, that's
Got
the
it.
protocol.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
So with no further comments, any other comments? Any comments from trustees or?
So we have to close the current hearing?
Yes. I'll make a motion to close the hearing presently.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
And I'll make a motion to reschedule this for
May 10th,
May 10th.
6 o'clock. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. Also in public hearing, we have amending residency requirements for appointed officers. I'll make a motion to open that hearing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Any comments from trustees or
Maybe I can
council?
explain. Based on the public hearings and the comments that have been received and further review, the board, what you have before you is similar to the last meeting, is a revision to the local law. And this particular revision would allow the board to appoint officers that may reside within the county of Suffolk. However, it excludes all elected officials, as well as all appointed members of village administrative boards. So it's any other officers that you have in the village other than your administrative boards.
So nothing on the Architectural and Historic Review Board, the Planning Commission, none of those?
None of those.
Those
Okay,
They
so
all
it
have to
would
be
be-
residents.
Residents of the village.
Yeah,
And that was the bulk of your comments that you received as well.
right, yeah.
And we can go outside as incidentally, we have, coincidentally, 4 officers of first responders and so forth.
Exactly, many of those
In this-
officers, yes, correct.
Okay.
Any comment from the public? Oh, come on, Bonnie.
Forever hold your
Sit on the
peace.
outside.
Bonnie Cannon, 54 Miller Road. Just so that, for me, and I know probably for a couple other people, I'll speak for a couple other people out in the audience, just so that we're clear, the other offices where you are able to go outside, could you just list those? I know you said first responder, you said, what other areas are we talking about?
Counselor?
You have Fire Prevention Board, the Ambulance Board has officers, commissioners, chief, vice chief, things of that sort. They're technically officers, and under the current code, it could be construed that they have to be residents. And in particular, some of those entities transcend the boundaries, the ambulance districts or fire district volunteers, and a lot of them are volunteers. So that's one area. You have the treasurer position and a few others. I don't have them in front of you, but so for example, we have one commission where the statute already provides, for example, the Veterans Events Commission, which is all volunteers. Our statute already states that they can be residents of the county. So we're trying to create some consistency, and so many others. There was a thought that the village engineer or the administrator or code enforcement officers, but there is case law that indicates that they're considered to be employees, not necessarily officers. So, but this clears it up in the event that all the administrative boards, the ARB, the zoning board, the planning commission, and the planning board, all have to be residents and continue to be residents.
Right, I just didn't know what those other boards were, and I just wanted to have a list. Thank you.
Any other comments? So I believe we need to close the present public hearing and amending residency requirements.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And we'll schedule a new hearing for the May 10th meeting on amending residential requirements for appointed officers.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Good. Now, Steve, the next one is your favorite.
Okay, so we have, this is a hearing that's, everybody's waiting for tonight, I know that, but I'm only kidding. This is remaining open from last meeting, which is the proposed budget for the fiscal year ending 5/31/2019. As I said at the last meeting, it's an increase of $938,000, which is a 3 point...
Can I just suggest
Sure.
reopen the hearing?
Okay.
I'll make a motion to open the proposed budget for the year end of 5/31/19.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're looking at a 3.2% increase in the total spending with a 2.26% increase in the tax rate. Everybody always asked about the tax calculation. The tax base growth factor, which is a brick and mortar calculation based on construction in the village, is 2.3%. And the allowable growth factor is 2% based on inflation, so the levy increase can go up to 4.35% increase, which we did. One modification we did make based on comments at the last meeting, and we reallocated some monies between the senior citizen, the minority youth, and the workforce advisory committee. Again, it's just a reallocation and no effect on the overall budget. If more money is needed in these categories, we always have a $150,000 contingency fund that we can always allocate some money, additional funds to that.
Which we're very lucky to have.
Yep.
Hasn't there been a positive trend in what because of recovery in the markets themselves, the equity markets, hasn't there been a positive trend for us, what we have to contribute to
With regard
the
to the
mandates?
retirement?
Yeah, retirement.
Sure.
So that's, because that's really what,
Yeah, I mean,
we really got put in a sling because of the market downturn, and us and every other municipality had to pony up to cover those shortfalls. Yeah. And that just doesn't stop every day after that. It stays, and now there are some slight reductions, but we still...
Yeah, I mean, the state retirement...
established.
The state retirement is only going up $5,500. The police retirement is actually dropping $3,500.
And also our workman's comp, too, is starting
Workman's
to go the other
comp,
direction.
we're dropping that $50,000. As you know, we've been working on this for the last 4 or 5 years. We've been experiencing monumental increases in the workers' comp, but we renegotiated 2 of our budgets with respect to... employees can only go out 90 days on full pay, and then they're off onto the workers' comp rate, which obviously significantly reduces the time out, and that's affecting both the police budget and the civil service employees' budget.
And again, I point out through positive discussions and working with our contracts.
Mm-hmm. And we do quarterly, like we had one today, we do a quarterly safety meeting. We bring in, consultants that tour our buildings and note any deficiencies. We institute a series of checklists with respect to safety procedures. And also, when somebody unfortunately does get injured, they go through an extensive checklist of why, and could something be prevented the next time something like that would happen. What caused the accident. And knock wood, it's working.
We could actually see more.
Oh, yeah.
Decreases as we go forward, as long as these are implemented.
And what's going to happen, not this year, budget year, but the next year, there's a rating system on the claims, and they look at the last 4 years of claims, and they rate that. Our largest year of claims was $500,000. That will drop off next year. And this year to date, so far, we have $65,000 worth of claims, which is fantastic, as long as it keeps going.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. 2 more months to go.
Thank you, CPA.
And thank you, Steve, for all the work you've been doing on that. Workers' comp can be very frustrating, I know very well. Any comments from the public? Yes.
It's not about that, but I just want to know when I can come up and talk about Moses Lane, the park.
Oh, okay, that's...
The discussion later.
Yep, there's this discussion coming up, so...
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah. Any comments from the trustees on the budget?
Made motion, good.
Steve did a great job. And the departments, they all participate.
Yes.
And you had equipment purchases this year where you got fairly good discounts because you aligned with the town.
Right.
and
Yeah,
did a great
a
job.
few years ago, we aligned with all the departments, both, first responder and fire, the TPW, and large, what's it called again?
Piggybacking.
Through the entire state numbers. So not only has the pricing been good, but
Give Gary credit for
yeah,
doing
no,
that.
I remember when it first brought that to our attention. So not only is it get good pricing, it's expedited the process of the purchase. So there was always a lag time to get equipment, and that would be a budgetary issue because we'd have to order it maybe within one budget and it would be delivered in the next. So that did twofold. It got better pricing, but also sped up the delivery time of the six.
Yeah, it takes a tremendous amount of coordination, and as Rich pointed out, Gary's been very good on doing piggybacking on government purchases, which really, if you pay attention to it, can save you a lot on any of your larger purchases. And then again, there's been a big push in the county on shared services, which we've done some, but not a tremendous amount of shared services with other municipalities, although I think we've always done shared services regardless of being requested to do so. With that, I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposed budget for the year end of 5/31/2019.
But we have to close first, right?
We have to close it?
Close the hearing.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close the hearing on the proposed budget of 5/31/2019.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to accept the proposed budget for the year ending 5/31/2019.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Trustee Yaz?
Aye.
Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Mayor Irving?
Aye.
Trustee McCann?
Aye.
Trustee Hatcher?
And aye.
So moved.
All right, boss, your first budget.
Don't blow it. With no communications to the board, we have suggested resolutions.
Item 1, resolved that the reading of the minutes for the public session of April 12th be dispensed with, and that those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, that the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Resolved that the claims to warrants dated April 24th, 2018, totaling $610,329.14, warrant 17 general fund, $136,880.14 capital reserve fund, and $213.33 warrant 11 trust fund be ordered and approved. Got a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Item 1, admit computer services, Suffolk County PD interface, $5,100. Alliance System Integrator software update and services for the security cameras, $10,955.94. Sir Timothy Adler and Hyman certiorari proceedings, $1,500. Page 2, William Culver and Avery Dennis, $1,000 apiece for fire department medical reimbursement for volunteers. Page 3, fluid imagery consulting fees, $2,942. Jonathan Ford, Fire Department Volunteer Medical Reimbursement, $1,000. Fundamental Business Services, court collection fees for March, $1,192.50. Walls LLC, PD uniforms, $1,505.26. Kyocera Document Solutions, copy lease payments, $1,196.03. More medical, ambulance supplies, $2,667.26. MITs for the Highway Department, $1,239.54. Page 5, National Grid, March bills, $5,190.38. New York State Employee Health Insurance for May, $340,665.57. Optimum Cable Services, $1,315.59. Otis Ford Garage Parts, $2,675.87. People's United Bank, $122,340. This is the last payment on the World War I and DPW equipment installment bond. Pine Barrens Printing, beach permits and building inspector applications, $8,678.35. Pitney Bowes Postage, $2,400. PSE&G, March Services, $3,010.25. Rico's Clothing, Fire Department uniforms, $6,630.83. Page 7, Rosemar Construction, paving the O'Connell Drive parking lot, $58,181.03. TJ's Transmission Rebuild, $3,299.81. Page 8, Truck King International, dump truck repair, $1,975.41. Uline Court Storage Shelving, $1,543.95. Verizon phone bill for March, $3,852.82, and the wireless bill for $1,857.43. And James White Fire Department medical reimbursement, $1,000. Last warrant, excuse me, is a capital reserve warrant, Reliance System Integrators, cameras at Coopers Beach, and the Fire Department access code control for 470 Hampton Road. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 3, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the appointing the following individuals as election inspectors for the village election on June 15, 2018, effective April 24, 2018. Gina Arrester, chairperson, $25 an hour. Diane Fisher, $25 an hour. Georgette Japek, $20 an hour. Gail Riesig, $20 an hour. Mariette Pincus, $20 an hour. Rachel Foster, $20 an hour. Betty Nichols, $20 an hour. And Jenny Fillinger, $25 an hour. All this will be 9 to 9. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? Item 4, whereas that the Board of Trustees has adopted a budget for the fiscal year beginning June 1st, 2018 that does not require a real property tax levy in excess of the amount otherwise prescribed in General Municipal Law, Section 3-C, and whereas the village had adopted local law number 2, that should be of 2018, authorizing a tax levy in excess of the limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C, so therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby repeals local law number 2 of 2018 as provided in Section 4 of such law. Have a motion? Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Steve, I have a question. You refer to local law 8 and 2 of 2018. What are the years of both of those?
I'm sorry?
What are the years of both of those?
2018.
It's local law number 2.
Right, yeah, he corrected it when he read it. The 8's wrong.
It carried forward as an 8 from a previous meeting, but it was it's 2 local law number 2.
But the second whereas says local law 8 of 2000.
That should be 2, number 2. Item 5, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves that a valid beach parking permit must be displayed in or on any motor vehicle parked or standing in or upon the parking facility at Coopers Beach during weekends and holidays from May 26, 2018 through June 17, 2018, and on a daily basis commencing June 23, 2018 through and including September 3, 2018. Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 6, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of Nicholas Johnson as a grasshopper for the Parks Department at an hourly salary of $11. Have a motion?
I make the motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of the following as traffic control officers for the 2018 season at an hourly rate of $16. George Brown.
I want to see how you do one of these names.
What's that?
I want to see how you do one of these names.
Practicing all day. Kessie Gorey, Kurt Grodsky, Thomas Cummings Jr., Robert Murphy, Seth Moll, Kyle Kujatsky. How do they do?
Okay, very good.
All right. Close. Kevin Warren, Sarah Moll, Victor Esposito, Jolyn Bazubek, and Joseph Riccardi. Have a motion?
So moved.
Yes. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the last one is resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring as following as seasonal police officers for 2018 at an hourly rate of $26. Greg Keglian, Andrew Kuttner, Nicholas Aquino, and Pablo Londono. Have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving to discussion items. The first discussion item is the Lower Premise Park. And Bonnie, you'll have an interest in this. Lower Prentice Park has been designated as a park since 1969. And it's gone through a number of uses. There was a skating rink up there at one time. There was basketball courts. There were tennis courts. There were all sorts. There was a skateboard thing that they had up there for a while. And also, the area that we're discussing tonight was used as the impound for the police department for a while. Yeah, well, I'm not going to say that. Being a park, we moved out the impound area to another area, and then we looked at what we're going to do up there, and the reality is the piece that we're using as an impound park was the original basketball courts. And the fence is up, there's asphalt that's down. Gary took a look at it, and we decided that we really just need to level it out. There's drainage already there, and then address the parking on the outside of the area for the courts. And I know Bonnie's approached us numerous times wanting some basketball courts, and I thought this would be a really inexpensive, great opportunity. Well, nothing's inexpensive in Southampton, but it would be a great opportunity to provide those basketball courts at a nominal cost.
Well said.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if there's any further comments, or?
No, I think it's, like you say, it's the compromise of trying to utilize our space wisely. This has been an area of controversy for several different reasons, but at the end of the day, it's using the space for exactly what it's prescribed for, park use. Mm-hmm. And it satisfies, one of the different things people, in addition to Bonnie, been asking for years, different things, basketball or something, skate park, which it was at one point. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bonnie. Please.
Bonnie Cannon, 54 Miller Road, Southampton. I think this is great. I mean, this is a start. And I think that this is great that we'll have the basketball court back where at Lola Prentice. I mean, that's when I was growing up, that's where I remember the basketball being. And if we were able to at least put a basketball court within the village, that's great. Because as Trustee Yastrzemski had said, basically that, this has been asked for not only by me, but by him and by others. Years ago, I had spoken with Coach Lamison, and he's saying people always want to have pickup games that come in, from the guys. They don't want to always have to play inside, and they want to be outside in the fresh air as well. And people come from out of town, and they need to have a place to play. So this is great. So I'm glad to see that you all came back with solutions so quickly. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Not just a port, you got two.
Yeah.
You got two.
So I assume we can make a resolution?
Yes, for the record, if you recall, there's been obviously litigation with the adjoining owners to the north with respect to the ambulance building and actually with the use of this property. The lawsuit was centered on the use of that paved portion, which was previously, as noted, used for a variety of uses throughout the years. But in particular, it was recognized that the temporary use by the police department as an impound area was not a proper use for a park, and thus that's what prompted this board to authorize the relocation and removal of that, which thus then prompted you to start looking at the use of this premises. And it was Gary that I think suggested, before you go and tear up the existing improvements, are there any particular uses? And when you started hearing comments about the basketball courts, the need for that in the village, that's what prompted you to get Eris Design to provide a plan. I just want to point out, though, this is a restoration of that use, going all the way back. This is property that was originally owned by the school district. Bill, you may remember.
I didn't go to school.
No? I'm not saying, but
You had the one-room schoolhouse, right?
historically, in the early, before I guess around 1960 or so, the school district had a little schoolhouse there that came in disrepair and non-use due to the new school, and the school district in turn deeded the property to the village to be used for public use. And thereafter, the village board, over the years, contemplated a number of things, but they had a very generous resident, Lola Prentice, who passed away, and her husband provided donations, and it was in 1968 that the village board more or less dedicated the property as the Lola Prentice Memorial Park. Thereafter, the board took upon itself first to, and many may recall, to improve the property with a replica of the first English fort that was there, but also had plans for tennis courts, a floodable basketball court, so it would be used for ice skating in the winter. There was a pavilion and a fireplace erected there at times. And then the board, within 5 or 6 years, realized the weather wouldn't cooperate so much for ice skating, and actually contemplated converting it to tennis courts, which never occurred. And then there was a few years of disuse. And thereafter, the skateboard facility was used and never got formalized, among other things, for insurance reasons. And then the proposal to use at least the front portion of the park for the dog park, which you implemented in 2013. So we're here, the plan in front of you doesn't involve increase of paving or improvement of the paved area. I believe it indicates it's reusing the fence that exists there, augmenting as necessary, perhaps behind the backboard. If you recall, the parking that was in front of the dog park, because of the popularity of the dog park, is actually inadequate, and that there was a need of having a parking area to the north or to the west part of the dog park, which was later informally placed gravel by the highway department and became a very informal parking area. This plan actually calls for actually making it a formal location, pulling back a lot of the gravel and so on, and it also provides for some screen plantings along the north side. There is no lighting proposed. This would be a dusk to dawn, dawn to dusk kind of use. And the other thing is that the park was quite isolated many years back, and there was always concerns, I know, from police enforcement or otherwise, of children gathering and having access to a site that wasn't monitored. Now, with the police station nearby, that issue is easily resolved. So what you have, if the board is inclined, you have this plan. My understanding is from Gary that most of the plan can be implemented by utilizing existing municipal contracts, like your paving contracts and other vendors. So this resolution would recognizes some of this history here and actually would authorize the restoration of the basketball courts at the Lola Prentice Memorial Park, and authorizes the Superintendent of Public Works to implement the plan utilizing the existing municipal contracts and vendors.
So because of all the thuses and therefores and wherefores you just said, Counselor, we can implement this and not have, and it doesn't, and the lawsuit current, as you started to mention, and what I referred to in the controversy, is a non-issue.
Well, the issue in the lawsuit is
that we didn't use a park. So
the use of the park for the impound area is not a park and recreation use, and thus it should be only used for park and recreation use, and this is in fact a park and recreation use. So.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
I'm virtually certain this is true, that the bulk of the credit for the village having Lola Prentice Park goes to what I always thought was the best village board member this village ever had, and that was Orson Munn Sr. He arranged to get this donated by the Prentices, and God bless Orson. He was sensational, as they say.
I saw his name throughout the minutes. I think he was very instrumental in that.
Given the weather patterns that we've had, could we revisit the skating part of it? I see a couple people in the audience showing interest.
Perhaps.
Take a different plan.
So should we read all these whereases?
You can if you want. Yes, I would recommend it.
Okay. So I will read the resolution authorizing the restoration of the basketball courts at Lower Prentice Memorial Park. Whereas by deed dated July 17, 1962, the Village of Southampton acquired the property on the western side of Windmill Lane from the Southampton School District to be used for public use, and whereas in consideration of the donation of funds for park recreational use, the Village Board, by resolution dated December 13, 1968, named the property as Lower Prentice Memorial Park, hereafter referred to as the Park, and whereas from 1969-1975, the Village Board adopted resolutions authorizing the repair and improvement of the park with a replica of the first English fort in New York State, tennis courts, and a floodable basketball court to be used in the winter for ice skating, fences, a pavilion, and fireplace. And whereas in 1976, the Village Board recognized that the use of the park for ice skating was not reliable given unpredictable weather conditions and contemplated converting the facility to tennis courts. And whereas the tennis courts were not constructed and the park facilities came into disuse until the mid-1990s, when a portion of the site was used as a skateboard facility, which use ceased a few years thereafter, and whereas in 2013 the Village Board authorized the improvement of the front portion of the park to be used as a dog park. And whereas the parking area along the front of the park along Windmill Lane has proven to be inadequate to serve as a dog park, and whereas the rear portion of the property has remained improved with the original paved facilities previously used for tennis and or basketball, and whereas adjacent police department facilities have temporarily used these improved areas for parking of impound vehicles, which use has ceased and has been relocated to the adjoining village lands, and whereas the Village Board has held informational meetings for the use of the park facilities throughout the village, and received numerous requests to provide basketball courts in the village, and whereas the Village Board had a plan prepared by Aris Design, last dated April 24, 2018, for the restoration of 2 basketball courts at the park, and whereas the plans depict the restoration of the basketball courts utilizing the existing paved and fenced area, formalization of the configuration of the existing gravel parking area in the center of the property to serve both basketball courts and dog park, and introduction of evergreen plantings to augment the existing screen plantings along the northern property line. And whereas the restoration of the basketball courts as depicted on the plans has been reviewed by the village's environmental planning consultants, Nelson Pope and Voorhees, LLC, and by Metamortium, dated April 24, 2018, advised that the restoration of the basketball courts is considered to be a Type 2 action under 6 NYCRR paragraph 617.5 CEQA review. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton hereby approves the plan prepared by Aris Design, last dated April 24th, 2018, for the restoration of 2 basketball courts at Lower Prentice Memorial Park, and hereby authorizes the superintendent of public works to implement the plan utilizing existing municipal contracts and vendors. Do I have a motion? I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
I'll take a drink.
More water. That was pretty good, Council.
I also think Orson was the longest-serving member on the village board for the village of Southampton, and I believe he served for 20 years.
Oh, boy, 20 years.
You haven't eclipsed that yet?
Pardon me?
You haven't eclipsed that yet in your different intervals?
I'm sorry.
You haven't eclipsed that yet? Haven't
passed it?
I've been on other boards, but this one I've only been on, I think I'll be up to 16 years. 16 years. And I'm no worse than mine. He was the grandest. Tiger in the jungle.
Same thing.
Okay, continuing on discussion items, we have Moses Lane Park. Yes. Thank you for your patience.
No worries. My name is Kathy Cervone. I live over on Fox Hollow Lane, which I'm directly impacted by Moses Park. Mr. Funch was kind enough to show me the plans, and I am concerned about the tennis court that is possibly going to be built on that park. So my first question is, how many of you are actually in support of a tennis court on the park, and if so, why, so I can understand? Loaded question, but then I'll tell you my concerns.
Well, it's not a loaded question. When we went back and reviewed Moses Lane, we listened to what everybody wanted. The direction that we took was to do a open vista area with a walk, which, you know, in the village of Southampton, there's only one other area that residents can take a walk, and that's down by Wickapog, and this would give it, you know, to me, a great opportunity to, you know, have an area you can exercise and get at least some open view. So that's why we moved in this direction. That's not to say that tennis courts or bocce courts, which were on the original plan, won't be built in the future, but at the moment, this is the direction we're going in.
Okay, well, Southampton Town, it has a park within half a mile of driving distance from where the proposed park is, Southampton Meadow Park, which is open to the public. It has a tennis court. It also has a small playground. There are 3 negative major things that impact a park in a residential area. One of them is transient population who's coming and going, safety concerns around the area. Another one would be parking. You did show me parking. It looks like there's ample parking, but you do worry about overflow parking in those residential streets. And a third one is noise from the park. All of these are external obsolescence. And in speaking with different appraisers, when you have external obsolescence in a residential area, it can depreciate the value of a home between 5 and 25%. Aside from that, we have the railroad, which is 2 and 3 blocks, depending on where you live, which is external obsolescence. We have a water tower, which, depending on where you live, is another form of obsolescence. Furthermore, I don't know if anyone's driven down Moses Lane at 5 o'clock. The traffic on Moses Lane backs up from McGee Street and 27 all the way down Moses Lane. That's noise pollution, another form of external obsolescence. So these are all concerns that I have, as well as other people in the area, about then adding a tennis court. And I don't know if anybody has ever lived by a tennis court, but whereas, I'll use your words, if you have, that constant swooshing of that ball going back and forth is enough to just make you close your windows when it's a beautiful day outside. If you look at the legal broad term of a park, it could be anything from an open space to a recreational area. And I would just ask that the board look at all options and maybe consider keeping this space a little more green, because I don't see how we would need another tennis court when there's one half a mile down the road. Or maybe you can look at other areas within the village that a park could be. Bonnie, maybe we can take one of those courts and put a tennis court there. But I would just hope that we can look at all aspects and reconsider not putting a tennis court in that area with all the other external obsolescence features that we have.
Well, I think this board has, that's why you have this new design with a walkway.
Okay.
And to me, I think that is absolute terrific use of the property, of open space, which we're so short of in this village. You got a place you can go and stroll, you can bring a baby carriage. A lot of people like to run with young kids in a carriage, and that is going to give all that opportunity to do that, and without getting run over on the road, which we all recognize we have traffic issues. So I think what we've got here is a real terrific asset to your community.
Is it going to be a dawn to dusk park? Or
no, I think the
Presently, yeah.
discussion, we were going to close it at night.
That's what, you're saying the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. Lights on the park and
Only minimal lights, no lights.
tennis court is where right now?
Is not there right now.
Okay.
On hold. I'm being honest, it's on hold.
No, I appreciate your honesty, because we do have concerns, and as I said, with all the other features of external obsolescence and a 5 to 25% depreciation, not what we're
Now,
looking
see,
for.
you say that, I say, if you're close to this, that's a convenience, that people, they don't have to have a tennis court in the yard. They can cross the street and play tennis over there. 11 acres.
I know.
11 acres.
I am
What's
aware.
there now is ugly.
And the
This is
is.
going to be beautiful.
And the tutu.
Yeah.
I know what's there. I've lived there for almost 18 years now.
But if you talk noise, that's real noise.
It is, but when you're having someone play tennis all day long,
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, this project may reduce your train noise, may. Because
because you're
there's a
burning
berm that's going in, and there's a buffer that's going in between the park and the train tracks. So,
And babies crying.
I think all this is an asset to you.
I love the walking and all that aspect, but
So the tennis is still possible or not, or we'll play it by ear? Is that what you're saying, Mayor, that it's
Yes,
able for
tennis is
now?
still a possibility, but it's within...
It's not immediate.
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, the property was purchased for this, and everybody didn't want the development that was going in there. Everybody was upset over the development. The 55 and over, nobody wanted it. The developer went to something else, then he decided not to do it, and the town bought it with the idea that this was going to be a park.
As again, park is a broad term.
As an active park, it has to be an active park. And what really, their issue is that it just can't sit stagnant. What exactly goes on or does not, I don't think is the issue, but it has to be, as the councilors point out, active. We have to be using the space.
I think the way it is right there is beautiful.
Which qualifies, and that's really I think that not a deadline, but something we have to satisfy using CPF money for it, I believe.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Got the second printout, you can take a copy of if you want.
This one here. Okay, thank you so much.
You can take the other one too.
I'm going to take them all.
Yes, Ms. Green.
Hi, Regina Grieven, Ox Pasture Road. I just have a question about that park. People to get to that park will they drive down Moses Lane or will they walk from Hill Street? How will that happen?
I imagine that some people will walk there, but I think mostly people that are close by.
And where will
There
those
is
cars
parking
be
that's-
parked, the people who are going to be driving there?
There's parking available in the park for
There will be.
anybody driving.
And how is it going to be carefully watched that these people driving are not going to be going fast? Because I've seen many kids there riding bikes and so on and so forth.
Yep.
And that's a little bit of a problem.
Yep.
I mean, you can't have police there watching, so you have to rely on people doing it the right way.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Well, you do on all our streets.
Yeah.
I mean, we have enough traffic on all our streets, and anybody bicycling has got to pay attention. You know,
Yeah, but this is going to be extra added traffic, and that's, this is not like someone just going to somebody's house.
Right. I don't
Staying there for a couple
anticipate a
of
ton
hours.
of people going in there and walking. You probably will have a number of people that you might find at the dog park in any given time.
How many spots on the westerly end there, Mayor?
9.
Does it allow?
9.
9?
9 spots
9
instead of
spots is what that allows?
It's also overflow. It's all grass, so.
Yeah. And they will enter and exit on Moses Lane, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's, and there's only one? Is it the same exit and enter?
You talking to me?
Well, exit and enter. So point out that.
I haven't finished my soliloquy here.
That's where, actually, what you're asking is right there.
Well, I'm not
Is
going
that
to
the
read all
one
that
entrance,
now.
Mayor?
Yes.
It's one entrance right
You
here.
can answer. You're supposed to know that. I'm asking you. You know what I mean? So,
Well, actually, we just got-
what is going to be the
just
cost
got-
to the taxpayer to take care of this park and?
Well, there's obviously a maintenance course because that's going to be all meadow. So there's mowing and upkeep and trim on the walkway, and the additional cost would be the construction, but Gary's assured me that most of that we can do ourselves. A lot of the, we can't lay the asphalt and stuff, and I wanted the walkway to be ADA compliant.
I think it has to be.
But we're going to keep it down to the minimum required size.
And the tennis court is only going to be done or not going to be done?
Not now.
Not right at this moment.
And the other tennis court owned by the town is not too far away, is that what I
That's
understood?
correct. Yes.
on the other side of the
Now we're going to have tennis courts all over the
side.
place making noise. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that one's part of the development, which is off of County Road 39. Well, actually, it's off
Yeah,
of
but
Williams
it's not
Way.
that far away, is what I'm saying. People are going to be in their cars. If they're going to play tennis, they're going to take a car over.
It is.
So what's a few little,
They
streets
should
away?
jog.
Well, they should, but who's to, you're going to have an enforcer there watching. You better get off and jog now and get out of that car, right? That's not going to happen. Thank you very much.
Yes. Anybody else with comments?
Bonnie Cannon, 54 Miller Road. In looking at the park that you have, it's a nice serene park for walking and families. Have you all looked at, because I've seen this a lot, and there seems to be a growing in the community where more of our young adults and even our youngsters and even adults are playing chess these days. So
I want to do those in Agawam Park. And there too, but yeah.
I'm just saying
We
that,
discussed the chess tables, and we actually have concrete chess tables.
yes,
However, Gary said that when we put the chess tables near the children's playground, kids were hitting their heads on the concrete tables.
right, so
We
have
would,
you...
Makes
that's why we
sense.
don't
I
put them
mean-
near the playground.
Yeah, so we would not really have to have them near the playground.
Okay, have you thought about having chess tables out at the Moses Park? Because it is a nice walking park there.
Yeah,
and
that's a good idea,
people
Bonnie.
could come and they can play chess out at the Moses Park. And it's
They could stop
quiet,
there in the middle
and
and
it's
walk their chess
and
around.
it's in the residence, and that
I think it's a nice idea. It's a nice, quiet sport.
it's a nice, quiet sport.
Except when he loses.
If the timer's up.
No, who's going to provide the chess pieces? No, chess police. No, people usually bring their chess pieces with them. Good idea. You have the table there. All right.
The table, the pieces, the clocks.
I like it. That works.
But actually, Bonnie, we already have those tables, do we not, Gary? We have concrete chess tables, do
We
we?
have them stored, but they
Yeah.
had to come out of the park. We need just a suitable location away from the playground area, where there
Right.
wouldn't be a path.
Yeah, they just weren't appropriate for that particular time in that playground, but we're proposing so many other areas currently that aren't going to be a young child's playground where we can now implement those.
Good idea, put them over there.
Any other comments? Comments from the trustees?
No, I'm content with it for now.
So,
Mr. Mayor, may I?
You gonna go through all this whereas stuff again?
Well, number one, just as a reminder, this property, based on the recommendations of the village, as well as the community, requested the town of Southampton purchase this using community preservation funds, and they expressly indicated in their purchase resolutions that this shall be used for an active park. Based on that, this board had originally prepared concept plans and shared them with the town, which they reviewed and actually authorized, and that included what was discussed earlier, tennis courts and bocce courts and the like, and included the walking path. However, based on this board's having informational meetings on all your park facilities and hearing what the community has said, has agreed at this time that you're not sure where or what kind of tennis courts or bocce courts or other activities on this. However, you did want to move ahead with the walking path element. So you had Aris Design revise the plan accordingly. It shows just the minimal parking area on the west, the walking plan. There is a element that does provide for a future gazebo if you do propose that. So, but beyond that, based on that, you had Nelson Pope also review these plans to address seeker. They provided you documents, environmental assessment forms that reviewed the potential impact of this particular plan in front of you, and recommended a negative declaration. Also, since the property is actually owned by the town of Southampton, and they did want to see that this is for active recreation, the intermunicipal agreement between the village and the town actually requires the town to improve, manage, and operate this as an active park. And the town did review your original concept plan, like I said, did review, approve that recently again. And their expectation is that you will use it for active park purposes. So this is the first step. And I think this board, as you've indicated, you're looking at all your recreation and park facilities and still keeping an open mind as to where and how those facilities, and there may or may not be something on this site in the future, and which would be subject to further public review at that time. So you have a resolution here that would authorize this and adopt a negative declaration, and similar to the Lola Prentice, authorize the Superintendent of Public Works to implement the plans utilizing existing municipal contracts and vendors.
But it's approving what we see in front of us, right?
Plan, only the plan that's in front of
So there's no whereas in here that says and down the road or something?
No.
And even though the CPF,
No.
that original concept plan was just that, a concept plan?
Just the concept.
And for the general public, if you could just define negative declaration, because it sounds negative, but it isn't.
No, a negative declaration indicates that you've reviewed the potential impacts on the environment and making a finding that the proposed project, as you see before you, will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment, and that no environmental impact statement need be prepared before further consideration and approval. Thus, negative meaning no environmental impact statement.
No negative.
Versus a positive declaration, meaning that you would have to have an environmental impact statement before this project that's before you could be approved.
And the original resolution with the town was in 2016?
No, they recently, they reviewed this with the board. I believe Nancy was at that meeting, and Michael. And they adopted the resolution only a couple meetings ago.
This one, you mean?
On April 10th.
How we have it as this?
They looked at and approved the original concept plan just in case that you didn't, they knew that you may want to consider the other elements, and so they approved all the other elements, not knowing exactly how you were going to implement it. They've been consulted since and understand that you're only doing this at this time. And this was a part of the element of that concept plan. The walking paths and the parking were part of those plans.
But the original, sorry, the original intermunicipal agreement with the town.
There's only one agreement. But.
Okay, that directed this to be of community benefit was in 2016.
Correct.
Okay.
Shortly after the acquisition.
Okay.
And we're allowed the discretion to how we implement
Correct.
things. Okay.
But they do want to see it used as an active park.
Correct.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Barbara.
Barbara McEntee, 43 Lee Avenue. The negative impact, is there a list of what things might be considered negative impact?
There's an environmental assessment form that indicates it's a systematic way that the environmental consultant reviews all the potential impacts of a project. A number of questions: impact on the air, the water, traffic, community character, the environment, groundwater, all these aspects they review and they determine in light of the context of the project within the village, whether or not that will have a significant adverse impact on the environment, and thus make a recommendation as to whether the impacts are either large or small, and if they're large, they have to expressly indicate why those impacts are being mitigated or otherwise. And that's part of the environmental assessment forms in the record.
Right, but so that addresses the environmental impacts, or is there any other, are there any other qualifications that discuss impact, such as tennis courts and noise or anything else? Or is it just, that's what I'm asking, I guess.
They do consider traffic, they do consider noise.
Okay, so that's all included in the environmental.
Correct. Yes. And they reviewed this plan, not a tennis court.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, comments? Board?
No, I'm good. Said what I wanted.
We'd like to read the resolution.
Get a drink of water and get ready for the whereas.
As long as they don't get yelled at for all the whereases in it. Whereas by deed dated November 9th, 2016, the town of Southampton acquired property via the Community Preservation Fund on the northerly side of Moses Lane, south of the Long Island Railroad, in the incorporated village of Southampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 0904-001.00-03.00-085.001 for the express purpose of an active park. And whereas by intermunicipal agreement dated November 10th, 2016, the village of Southampton has been authorized by the town of Southampton to improve, operate, and manage the premises for active park and recreation purposes for the benefit of both village and town residents. And whereas pursuant to resolution adopted by the Southampton Town Board on April 10th, 2018, the town of Southampton approved a general concept plan for the development of the subject premises for the active park and recreational purposes. And whereas the village board has held informational meetings on the use of the park facilities throughout the village and received numerous requests to consider different and/or a variety of improvements on the subject premises. And whereas until the location and design of other active recreation facilities can be determined, the village board has agreed that the premises may be developed with a paved, winding walking path, grass meadows, a planted berm along the Long Island Railroad to the north, and an informal gravel parking area as depicted on a plan prepared by Aries Design, last revised April 24th, 2018. And whereas the improvements as depicted on the plan have been reviewed by the village's environmental planning consultants, Nelson Pope and Voorhees, LLC, and has advised that the proposed park improvements are considered to be an unlisted action under 6 NYCRR Section 617 SECRA, and have prepared an environmental assessment form parts 1 and 2. And whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton has reviewed the environmental assessment forms prepared by its environmental planning consultants and finds that the project will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton hereby adopts a negative declaration pursuant to 6 NYCRR Section 17 SECRA, and be it further resolved the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton hereby approves improvement of the Moses Lane Park as shown on the plan prepared by Aries Design, last dated April 24th, 2018, which plan includes an installation of a paved winding walking path, grass meadows, and a planted berm along the Long Island Railroad property to the north, and an informal gravel parking area. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton hereby authorizes the Superintendent of Public Works to implement the plan utilizing existing municipal contracts and vendors. Have a motion?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And thank you.
Does our previous mayor deserve any credit for having served on the board with the town that bought this for us? Did he give them that idea, or who gets credit for that? I thought he might have, because he was doing things.
Community preservation.
Thank you.
Right.
PBR.
It might have been. I'm not sure, though. I can't remember. Yeah.
Had a role in it. We should try and find out. Thank you, Card.
Further discussion items, the next item we have is to schedule, I guess, a public hearing on a issue and a topic that I was pretty much involved in, and I think is a great asset to the village of Southampton, since we had a couple of issues last fall, and that's the organization of an ocean rescue group of first responders. And we started with that back in, I think, January of last year. Yeah. Somewhere around there, and it's been a long process, but we're closing in on figuring out how to bring them in and make them a part of make them a part of all our safety and rescue services. You know, the thing of it is that particularly in the fall, when the kids go back to school and the lifeguards aren't at the beaches anymore, our seasons, to me, have changed drastically, and we're getting a much later spring, and we're getting a much earlier, we're getting much later fall is really what I'm saying. And September and October are great times to go swimming, and the beaches are basically unattended. And last year we had a police officer in the village made 3 rescues. Was it 3 rescues, Chief, or 2?
A recovery body.
And Route 1 was a recovery, yeah. Which was a really sad case, and that's really what prompted me to reach out. East Hampton is very effectively running an ocean rescue group for both the town and the village. And the interesting thing is a good percentage of their participants in their ocean rescue live in Southampton. So, you know, it was,
Give them
to
a
me,
chance to have a shorter drive.
Yeah, it's a logical thing to utilize their training and so forth, and these individuals are going to go through excessive training and an excessive organization, and they've been submitting stuff to us on a regular basis on how they're going to be set up and how we're going to do it. So really the purpose of this discussion is to receive any comments from any of you, but also to schedule a public hearing on organizing the ocean rescue. So with that said, is there any comments or? Council?
No, you can't speak then.
Assuming there's no public comment yet, but I mean, it's not a public hearing. I'm sure you'll get commented when you do schedule a hearing, but I think the impetus that the mayor has indicated has been there, and I've worked with the mayor and the group that you've been working with to try to find the proper mechanism to allow them to have some recognition. As you know, these are volunteers who would not be able to coordinate with our emergency services personnel or otherwise participate in something unless there was some official recognition, so that our police department or other emergency services can coordinate how that works, as well as come under some authority and review. Certainly, this proposed local law is modeled after your volunteer ambulance department, the section of the village code. Similarly, it requires that they adopt certain bylaws, which you have a draft available. The most important elements of that are how they become members, volunteer members, but more importantly, how they receive and obtain certain training before they can even participate in any kind of rescue or coordinate that. And another component we found in East Hampton is that their organization has taken a strong role in educating the public, and also providing, for example, ability for people to get certain certifications, whether they be lifeguard certifications, whatnot. So this law would allow you to create that department. There's a strong component of this group already, as the mayor said, that already qualify for many of the certifications. They're already participating in East Hampton. And so they have a strong nucleus to do that. And I think the goal here would be to see if you can get something organized by the summer here.
Yeah, they've got a good group, and Mayor, commend you for getting them and it's a very varied group, because the start of it, as you said, is like, the good news is we don't have to reinvent the wheel with this, because East Hampton has a very successful program. And as a matter of fact, the one person who implemented all their bylaws and all the legal documents that have been working with our counselor here is one of our village police officers. So he's been, so that's the good news about is we're already working with something that exists well. But you definitely brought in, I must say, a very mixture of characters between first responders and just the normal beach-going surfer who has an interest in serving the public. So it's been, I'm excited for the amount of people that have stood up to volunteer for doing this.
Yeah, it's been great to see. I mean, we have a number of individuals that were lifeguards at Cooper's that they're involved. A number of other individuals that are first responders for ocean rescue in East Hampton that are involved. And then we have another core group of surfers that are going to step up the bat and take the training and take the EMT courses.
And it's no easy training. I mean, these people are signing up for some extensive and very time-consuming training. I commend them for doing that.
And
it's not a walk in the park.
Being a past surfer, I can float in the ocean and swim around big waves, but boy, I can't swim the distance that these guys are going to be required to. So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires with them. But it's been great to see people come out of the woodwork that have never been involved in a public forum or been involved with volunteering for anything, stepping up.
That's great. So how will we be notified? You brought up the season after Labor Day because we don't have lifeguards at, let's say, Cooper's Beach. But we also have a lot of beaches that are unattended by lifeguards. We have accesses that, people go to all summer that really have no lifeguards. So if there was a swimmer in distress there, how are they notified? Is it through 911? How is this being done? And then will they carry walkie-talkies, or what's going on with that?
I'm not exactly sure on how the 911 calls work, because I understand it goes to the town. Is that correct?
No. Well,
it goes to us.
Goes directly to us?
To answer the question, it would go along our original dispatching system.
Cell phone system.
And they would, and the discussion is, have them having radios, the radios. So to answer your question, that's how, it would be an extension of how we have. We have our first responders. This is expanding that to a group that is specifically extra hands on deck for ocean rescue. So 911, yes, dispatch, all our current things we use.
So a lot of those logistics are still being worked on.
Yeah, this would authorize the formation of the group. The logistics and the police chief will be a very important element. The group that's here has already had experience how it works in East Hampton, but of course the systems are different. They're already dedicated to working to figure out those logistics, but they are there only in assistance to our existing emergency providers. And it really what it does is provide somebody who may be actually the true first responder in an element that if they happen to be there by location as compared to the police in that assistance. But there is a notification process that the logistics have to be worked out, and that would be part of their adoption of bylaws and protocol, as this board would have the authority to approve upon adoption of the law and creation of this program.
Any other comments? Do you have a comment, Chief?
Thought he was walking out.
Run away.
Don't slam the door.
Actually, these ocean rescue situations have been going on for at least 3 years. I mean, but they've become much more prevalent, as you've said, because of the weather changes. We've, in the police department, been planning for this type of stuff before this ocean rescue squad came up with a lot of different technology to help, and this is just going to augment everything we're looking at already. The one thing I would say about if you call 911 from your cell phone, unfortunately it goes to the nearest tower. So we've had calls go to Connecticut, and then they have to figure out where Southampton is and transfer the call to us. So we are working on call boxes at the beaches, so you could actually press a button and bring right in police headquarters, and you could tell us exactly what you're doing. We haven't worked out the technology yet because it has to be pretty rugged.
But that's an issue everywhere. I mean, people realize when you call 911 from a cell phone, that's an issue everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't know. It depends on that tower and where it's bouncing
Right.
off.
The village is working on adding some cell sites that are not as obnoxious as a 150-foot tower. So that should be helpful for the summer. There's going to be one right here on Village Hall. So all the things that are going on are going to help us do a better job.
The system we installed up there was, again, specific.
Yeah, like we have a camera at Cooper's that can see 4 miles.
Yeah.
So,
as a matter of fact, that was used, correct me,
Right.
to actually locate one or several, those 3 distress that the mayor was referring to. I believe that camera was able to help zero on one or a couple of them.
I'm not sure, but we at least filmed what went on.
The search.
We had another off-duty New York City police officer rescued 2 people at Road D 2 summers ago. They were at 300 yards in the rips. She got Officer of the Month for her precinct because we wrote a letter thanking her. So it's happening.
Yep.
And if we don't get called, I'm sure there's a lot more rescues going on than we know about. We only know about the ones that we get called to.
And your officer, James Moore, got awarded for Officer of the Year for his rescue.
That's right. There's probably a lot more that we're not even.
He went in the water at least 3 times last summer.
Yeah, 3 times. It's pretty impressive.
So, you think about that when you're a young cop, like what are you going to do? But usually you don't have to. You had to do it more than a few times. So we're working on it. We've been working on it for a couple of years, and I think it's going to start really coming together.
Yeah, I hope so. That's what we're trying.
At Cooper's during the summer, did we not extend the hours?
Going to.
Yeah, that was another good thing.
Yeah, because one of the problems at Cooper's Beach is at 5 o'clock, weren't they?
Yeah, what we discussed, we actually had the manager in the other day, we're discussing with him, and in June it doesn't make sense, we're still going 9 to 5, but starting July on the weekends, we'll do 9 to 6, and then see how the traffic goes, and the weather, either the 3rd week in July or the 1st week in August, we'll do 9 to 6, 7 days a week. And it'll be 2 shifts. It'll be, 9 to 5 and then a 10 to 6. So we're not going to extend the ticket with hours, obviously, but it'll be the lifeguards and then the beach chairs and umbrellas.
Which is good, but from what I understand from talking to a number of these lifeguards that are in East Hampton and back west, is that even if you have a lifeguarded beach, you can get yourself into a situation where you have more than 2 or 3 rescues at the same time, and that's where...
Got a little too much confidence.
Yeah.
Right. Still, you got to be aware.
So...
Okay, so just need a motion to schedule a public hearing for May 10th?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye. To the end of the discussion items, we have comments from board members. And we'll start with Trustee Skramsky.
Yeah, I'm good. I think we've covered enough tonight for me.
Second that motion.
Trustee Allen?
I want to thank Trustee Hatrick for his great sense of humor, keeping us all on our toes here. I just had two comments. One was community related. There was a lot of activity last month for between the Easter egg hunt in the park and several marches, and then there was a police lockdown at the high school and a number of different things. But I came upon a fawn that was hit by a car, and I called the police department, and I also called Wildlife Rescue, and Officer Lisa McCullough responded to the call. And she handled it so beautifully because there was a very, very caring neighbor who wanted to go up to the deer, who was petting the deer, and she instructed us not to approach the deer. They look, frail and small, and she said they're like tanks. Stay away. But she calmed everybody down. She managed the traffic. Then I learned that she also is on the Easter egg hunt committee. And then I remember she was at the event, at the March event. So she was obviously everywhere. But she did mention to me that everybody should be careful because there are so many small animals that are now. It's the season where they've been born and they're running all over town. So we really have to be careful on that. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that we have our senior month next month, and we have our senior resource center, senior resource celebration at the Southampton Historical Museum. We don't have a lot of people that have signed up, so I'm going to put another plug in and say that there will be refreshments, and the mayor and some of the trustees will be there for seniors who have not met the mayor. And we hope you can make it. It's May 1st from 1 to 4, Southampton Historical Museum.
Actually,
thank you, Trustee.
I want to say one thing. I did forget. I slipped my mind.
Is he allowed?
No, yeah, I'm allowed. Even Bill would allow this one. I want to put a shout out to our fire department and all the neighboring fire departments that were on hand to put out the fire in National Golf Links. This past week I was at it. It was a very impressive sight to how many apparatus, equipment, and personnel from all the departments. And again, we had departments as far as Shelter Island come in because when a lot of departments are brought to the actual scene, we still have to have coverage at our houses. So then other ones come. So we had departments from Shelter Island come over and stay at our firehouses in case another call came in simultaneously. So again, Bridgehampton, West Hampton Beach, Hampton Bays, North Sea. I'm sorry I missed them all, but we between our own Southampton, it was all hands on deck, and they did a great job in preserving a historical building and having. It could have been a lot worse, so they did a great job. So
they got that.
Thank you guys.
Under control in record time.
Yeah, they did.
And that's also what shared services is about.
Correct. Mutual aid works.
Thank you. Trustee McGann.
I don't really have that much more to add, other than I'm excited about the parks, and we're still working on the Dosher Playground. I call it the Dosher Playground because it was Jane Dosher's property. But the addition or the expansion of Agawam Playground, we're still working on that. We're coming up with a teen pavilion. We're waiting for some designs on that. And we're laying it out in a different manner. So anyway, so we're still working on that. And I hope to have something about that shortly, like maybe next meeting or the meeting after. So nothing will happen there probably until the fall anyway, although we are resurfacing the rubberized ground cover there at the playground that's there because it did not pass the tests. So we're fixing it and we're resurfacing it by about 1.5 inches. So that should be done before Memorial Day. It didn't pass the fall test. That's what it is. If a child falls, they have to be able to be well cushioned, and bounce.
It's the bounce test.
So we went out and dropped a bunch of kids, and apologies to those kids.
Anyway, so that's being taken care of, and we're hoping to get it done before Memorial Day weekend. That's our goal. And the other probably nothing would happen there until the fall. I don't see it happening.
But Nancy, I got to say, I never anticipated I'd be involved in so many parks.
I know, me either. It's like we have parks coming out of whatever. It's like crazy. We have so many decisions to make. But you know what? It's good. It's all good. It's all creates, family activity and, people who doesn't like to play tennis or who doesn't like to go play basketball, or who doesn't like to see kids laughing and having a wonderful time in a playground that's challenging to them and uses their muscle core group or their core muscle group. So, these are all good things that we're doing, and, I'm hoping we'll move forward on all of it.
Keeps them from watching TV and playing games.
Correct, yeah.
Absolutely.
Gets them out in the fresh air. Yeah. And it gets people into our community. I mean, one of the hardest parts of our business district is that it's struggling. And so if you're bringing families for their kids to play in the playground and you want to go off and do some shopping or have lunch together, it creates some activity in our business district. And I think that's a great thing. I think it's definitely needed. And so, that's another benefit. It's not the benefit, but it's another benefit. And our delis get people taking out lunch, and there'll be picnic tables to sit there and have lunch. So it's nice.
And it's also great to give the recreational opportunities to the residents of the village.
Absolutely.
So often that's been ignored. And,
right.
We have the opportunity to change it.
Right. That's true.
Thank you, Nancy. Chester, hat-trick?
Simple statement, I'm not having any more children.
Promise?
You sure?
They made me age too quick.
I love it. I would like to just reiterate what Trustee Yastrzemski had said. The fire department did an absolutely magnificent job with saving the National. It could have been a lot worse, and all the responding departments did a great job. And one of the reasons that I think that it was put out so quickly and they were controlled so quickly is that you, the public, have the good graces to provide the resources that they can buy and use and train with pretty impressive equipment.
Well said.
Between the new packs that they're wearing and the oxygen packs and the trucks and the vehicles and it's really all of you that make things like National not become as huge disaster as they could be. And then on another note here, backed by popular demand, is the job fair, which was going to be held back in Hauppauge, is now also going to be held in Southampton Town at the Town Hall on Friday the 11th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And so if anybody's interested, can Charlie get on? Is it on the camera?
She's got it down there. Great.
You have it?
Perfect.
Yeah.
You should zero in on that a little bit more. Yeah. Look at this.
Great opportunity for somebody to pick up some extra work.
Is that a picture of someone we know?
Yes, it's Southampton Town Hall.
Oh, Southampton Town Hall.
Malone.
It is.
You got Malone, Schneiderman, and Ervin.
What a group.
What a group.
But there are, a variety of different positions that are available, all of which I'm sure somebody would fit in pretty well with. So I hope everybody makes a note of that time, and if you're looking for extra work, great spot to start. Then also, Trustee Allen had indicated to me that the Planning Commission has a date change.
Joe, can you remind me of the date? The 17th instead of May 5th?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
May 5th, okay. So if you were planning to attend their session, it's been changed from the 5th to the 17th?
Mm-hmm. And there'll be a presentation on attainable housing.
Oh, perfect.
Huh?
Good.
I don't know if I can go. Oh, it starts at 5. I have a historic museum.
5 o'clock, Joe, it starts? 5 o'clock. And that's really all I have for tonight. Again, I thank this board because there's so much stuff going on. It is pretty incredible. Sometimes I sit there and my head's spinning going, wait a minute. Julie's sending me all these notes on people to call, and I'm going, and the council over there sending me an awful lot of whereases. And, I'm trying to separate them all and figure them all out. But I think overall this board has done a pretty good job, and have given you a lot of interest and a lot of work on the parks, and the Gin Lane restoration is a great project. We just need to tweak it a bit. So with that, anybody has a second comment? Bonnie?
Bonnie Cannon, 54 Miller Road. I just wanted to say to this board that I appreciate the fact that you all listened, and you took into consideration when I came before you, and I had some concerns. I wanted to thank, I know one concern that I did want to say was regarding the personnel issue with the police department, and when I had came before you, I had said that there was something that was brought to me. I wasn't really clear on all the facts and things of that sort, and I did get a call back that everything was done adequately, and the process was done adequately, and I think that there were some meetings that took place also with Mr. Ware from the NAACP as well. So again, I just wanted to commend this board for stepping up to the plate as far as when I did come before you. Job fair, that's no longer an issue. We're having that on May 11th. Basketball courts, that's no longer an issue. We're having have that at the Lola Prentice. We're not doing anything with the Hillcrest and the Miller Road community with the R7.5. I mean, the budget, you didn't change it, but you know that there's ways that you can put more money into.
We changed it, though. We changed it.
There's always more.
Yeah, and you can put more money into that. So basically, it's great coming before you and, having you all to address all the issues. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Very good.
Any further comments? Be hard to top that one, Bonnie. Well, with that, I make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters involving village employees.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Second.